We're in this series on the Rabbi as we head into Easter and how Jesus turned the world upside down, and he did in so many ways. And right now, there's a lot of interest in Jesus. I don't know if you've been listening to the news or watching some of what's happening. We had the campus revivals that are going on. Started with one in Kentucky, Asbury, where students asked to stay after a chapel service and stayed for several weeks. Over 20,000 people, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, worshiping and praying. Baylor University, other universities around the country, where students are saying, hey, we want to connect with Jesus. And then the movie, Jesus Revolution, if you've seen that one, opened up, and they thought it was going to have a short run. I know some of the folks who put that together, and it went so well their first week, they opened up an additional 100 theaters, and now they're extending it for the next month in theaters across the country. People are interested in Jesus. When I was here the last time, I told you that I was helping out with some ads. Maybe you've seen those, the He Gets Us ads, the Jesus commercials. In the Super Bowl, we had 2 of them. I was inviting you to pray for that. And I want to tell you what happened as a result of this, but I want to show you the ads. The first one, this ad right here, was a 30-second ad that ran just between the first and second quarter in the first half of the game. Watch this here.
What a wonderful world this would be. There'd be no trouble and no...
So that ad dropped. And in the first minute following that, 205,000 people went to our website, hegetsus.com. Then the second ad was in the second half of the game, and we knew it was going to be somewhere around the fourth quarter, so all of us were praying for a close game. At halftime, Kansas City was getting blown out, and I'm not saying God intervened in the Chiefs coming back. However, they did, and you know, most of the ads run whenever there is a score and there's a timeout for getting reset after they've scored. And now the Chiefs have tied the game. They're coming back down the field, and there is an injury. And with the injury, they went straight to commercials, and we were supposed to be the third commercial in that queue. We, however, were the first commercial in that queue, and it was the most watched commercial. It's the second most watched Super Bowl ever. It's the first most watched second half ever, and this was the most watched commercial ever. Watch this ad here.
Maybe I'm foolish, maybe I'm blind, thinking I can see through this and see what's behind. Got no way to prove it, so maybe I'm lying. Take a look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see it clearer, or are you deceived in what you believe? 'Cause I'm only human after all.
By the end of the game, 3.2 million people had downloaded one of those ads or gone to the website. About that, 18,000 people asked to make some connection. We had 3,168 people raise their hand enough to say, I'd like to talk to somebody, and we connected them with a local church or ministry in their area, in their neighborhood. And then following, the 2 days following, we have opportunity for people to get a Bible reading plan if they want, because here's a basic assumption we're making with these ads, that if people get interested in the main character, they may want to hear about the rest of the story. And we had 119,000 people go and download a Bible app about Jesus. There's a lot of interest in Jesus today. And who is he? Jesus makes some statements about himself. I want to give you a couple that he says. There's 3 times when Jesus makes what I would call a purpose statement. Now, there's plenty of questions, right? Plenty of speculation. Yeah, a lot of our own stuff gets in the way of us seeing Jesus. But in the Gospels, Jesus begins to describe himself. And there's 3 times he says, for the Son of Man came, and then he gives what he came to do, something to do. And actually, if you're a Christ follower, these are things that we ought to be following in his way, following in what the rabbi was teaching. Here's the first thing Jesus said, Mark chapter 10, verse 43. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. In other words, serving, not being served, is the way of Jesus. Luke 19:10, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save that which was lost. Helping people reconcile back to God the Father is the way of Jesus. Jesus said, I'd come to serve, and I came to find those who needed a way back home. And then he said this in Luke chapter 7, for the Son of Man came eating and drinking. They say, look at him. He's a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. In other words, Jesus came to connect with people who others would say aren't worthy of being connected with. Jesus was about finding people. He gets us. He does get us. And God is inviting us into this relationship with Jesus. I think it's fascinating today how much conversation there is about Jesus. Now, I know we live in a time when we're saying, hey, keep your faith to yourself. Don't talk about it. Don't make it public. Don't do it at the school. Don't do it in our workplace. It was a great American philosopher, Forrest Gump, who said, when you go to the zoo, always take some food to feed the animals, even though the signs on the bar say don't feed the animals. It wasn't the animals that put those signs up. We live in a time, I live out in Boulder, Colorado. I think I've shared with you before. Boulder is 20 square miles surrounded by reality. We got like every fruit and nut thing you can possibly have. We have what we call ABC people, anything but church. And the last thing they want to talk about is anything that has to do with what the Bible has to say about God. Now, we're interested in a lot of spiritual stuff. And it is true today that most people in our culture don't like Christians. They think we're too judgmental, too hateful. They don't like the church. They think it's too hypocritical, it's too organized. But they are interested in Jesus. And there is an opportunity for us today, in this culture, in this window, in this climate, to talk about Jesus, to help people connect with him. And I love that Johnny's doing this series on the Rabbi, because we find in him this thing that Jesus claimed about who he was. He said, I am the way and the truth and the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through me. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really knew me, you would know my Father as well. Jesus said, from now on, you do know him and you've seen him. Now, if Jesus was just a good rabbi, a good teacher, a good spiritual leader for people, then what he said was blasphemous. And if Jesus was a radical looking for power, political power, and opportunity to influence people, a big influencer in his culture, what he said would have lost him popularity in his day. And if Jesus was just a carpenter who accidentally stumbled into all these people connecting with him and following him, what he said here should put him on meds and have him kind of carted out of the room. What Jesus said was radical when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus' statement about who he was draws a line in the sand for what we choose to do with him or about him. I am the way, the truth, and the life. For a long time, researchers said that knowledge, what we could know in the world, doubled about every 100 years. Up through 1900, it doubled every 100 years. And then kind of from the early 1900s through World War II and that time on, knowledge started doubling at the rate of about every 25 years. Because of artificial intelligence and advancements we have today, they're predicting that knowledge is soon going to double at the rate of every 12 hours. There's a lot to know, and it's hard to know what to know. Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life. What is truth? What is truth today? How do we see it? Because knowledge alone isn't enough. Here's what Solomon said about that in Ecclesiastes. Look, I've grown and I've increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I've experienced much of what wisdom and knowledge have, and then I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also of madness and folly. But here's what I learned. All of that is just chasing after the wind. All of that leaves me wanting, hungry, open, needing. Jesus makes this bold statement. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And yet we live in a culture today when we are as confounded as we've ever been about the big deal answers or the questions that seem to have no answers. We live in a time when we know more than we've ever been able to know in the history of mankind. And how are we doing? Do things feel good to you right now? Almost everywhere I go, there is this sense of we're off right now. Things don't seem right to us in some ways. What is truth? You know, for a long time in the history of the world, the only channel you could get was the God channel. Didn't matter where you tuned in, you got the God channel. And God was the one who made the sun come up and the rain to come and the crops to grow, and he gave life and breath, and the things that happened as a result of God. But in the mid-centuries, through the influence of people like Bacon and Descartes and a number of other philosophers, we began to understand more about the world, the mechanics, how things were. We discovered how the earth rotated, and that was the reason that the sun rose in the morning. And we understood crop rotation and what could make things grow. And so we began, and we got the Science Channel. And then we got to a spot where the Science Channel became the dominant channel. Most of us in the room grew up with the dominant channel. Now, you could still get the God channel. You kind of had to lean out your window and put some aluminum foil on the antenna, and it would come in a little fuzzy and clear, but you could still get it. But today, where are we today? We are a channel surfing culture. Every channel vying for reality, every channel saying we have truth, every channel saying we're the ones who are right. There are 1 billion messages a day that are bombarding you, asking you to believe what they're saying is true. What is truth? No absolutes today. Truth is relative or flexible. It bends to my need. It bends to what makes me feel good. The highest good, according to our society, is whatever works for you. The individual is at the top. I'm a baseball fan, so I'm enjoying spring training and watching all the early stuff, and you all get the benefit of it being here and maybe get to see some games. Walter Truett Anderson described what we've done with truth, and he used a baseball illustration. He talked about 3 umpires. The umpire, the one who stands behind the plate and decides balls and strikes. And here's what he said. For a long time in the history of the world, the umpire said, there are balls and strikes. I call them the way they are. If the ball went through the strike zone, it was a strike. If it was outside of the strike zone, it was a ball. There are balls and strikes. I call them the way they are. Then we shifted to a time in the world when the umpire said, there are balls and strikes, I call them the way I see them. It's how I see them. And then he said this, today, the umpire says, there are balls and strikes, and they aren't anything until I call it. In other words, we've made everything subjective on our experience. What we want, what we like, what we need. We bend truth to fit our agenda, our narrative, to make our lives work. Only 2 out of 10 adults in the U.S., and that number is declining, believe that there is any absolute moral truth, down from 4 out of 10 in 2000. We live in a time today when people think we are off morally. A large percentage of people in the country think we've got moral issues going on, and yet the majority of us believe that there is no absolute moral truth. We have this conundrum happening for us. Most of us would agree that using chemical weapons in warfare or to harm a group of people is horrific, abhorrent. And yet that same group of people believe that truth is relative. So if we believe a chemical weapon is abhorrent, there must be some underlying, there's an assumption, there's an underlying morality that would cause that to be wrong. And yet most of us, even here in the room, believe that there is no absolute moral truth. It bends to our need. We live in a difficult time. There was a time when we believed that there was a truth we could adhere to. Even Christians do this sometimes, don't we? Some of you may have seen this bumper sticker. It was popular for a long time. And if you have one on your car, one, you'll have an old car. But two, I'll come after the service and help you take it off your car. Here's what it said. God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. Doesn't that sound good? God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. But do you know the subtle thing it does to God's truth, to the veracity of His Word? It shifts it. God said it. I believe it. And that settles it. It makes God's truth rise or fall upon my choice to accept it. So if God said some stuff that I don't believe, I'll do what I think is best for me. That bumper sticker would better read, God said it, and that settles it, whether I believe it or not. What we've done is taken truth and shifted it to what is best in my world, in my life. Jesus had some views on truth. Here's what He said, I'm the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And just a short time before He made that statement, here's what He said. Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And we know that line, don't we? You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Two things about that. First is it messes with you first before it frees you. And then the second is this. What is it freeing you from? What is the truth of God freeing you from? You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Well, I'm convinced it frees us actually from all the little t truths that you and I have grown accustomed to living with. All those ways we make our lives work. So we believe that, boy, if we could just have the right relationship, our life would be better. And so whatever relationship works best for me, that's the one that is true for me. I need a relationship. If I don't have a relationship, my life is not going to be good. And sometimes for us, we've said, well, what I really need is I really need to have enough money. If there's enough money in my life, if I have enough things, my life is going to work. Some of us have said, if we can just do the things that we want to do, if we can go where we want to go, we start stacking stuff, right? Our perception about truth is whatever makes me feel good, whatever makes my life work, that's true for me. For some of us, we say, I know I shouldn't be this angry. However, here's what happened to me. And because it happened to me, I get to respond the way I do because it's not actually my fault. I'm really kind of stuck. And so we build these little T truths, don't we? We have this little T truth that we build our life on. Hang with me here. And we have these little T things that we do, right, that somehow are going to make our life work better. And for a lot of us, this is how we live. All right, the only way my kids ever do the things I need to do is when I yell at them. The only way my spouse ever responds is when I pout. The only way my boss ever acknowledges me is when I promote myself in front of everybody. We build our lives on a lot of little T truths. And they work for us until they don't. And then they start to wobble. And then they wobble. And then what do? Oh, I had the wrong marriage. I need another marriage. I had the wrong job. I need another job. I live in the wrong place. I need to be, and then we build it all up again. And then it falls down again. And you and I have grown accustomed to living this way. And what we've done is what culture has done. And we're living out the results of that. Truth is relative. What's true for me may not be true for you. What's true for my spouse may not actually be the truth. How many times have you heard this? I just have to be true to me. Now, I'm not discounting all of the things that impact our lives and all the ways we need to sort out who we are and what we do. But I am suggesting that what we end up doing is building our lives on little T truths. They're true for us, but they don't square. They don't square with what Jesus had to say about truth. Jesus' invitation was for us to build our lives on a foundational truth. And so he says this to his followers: don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it weren't so, I would have told you, I'm going to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that where I am, you will be also. Trust in God, Jesus said. Trust in me. The rabbi here is making, in his day, what was a blasphemous statement, claiming to be equal with God. And if Jesus is the Son of God, he is saying, trust me. Trust me with your life. Trust me with your heart. Trust me with your truth. And you will find the truth that will set you free. The thing you've been looking for your whole life, the way you've been constructing your life, what you've been building on, that will get anchored in the truth of God. Our issue isn't about whether or not we're going to trust. We trust lots of stuff. Driving here today, coming down Trinity Boulevard that has a 45 mile an hour speed, right? And I had two people. One, they wouldn't let me get by, and I was late, and they were just, I think they were coordinating a block. And if it was one of you, I apologize for the way I looked at you when I got around you. But here's what I trusted on the road. They were going to stay in their lane, and I'm going to stay in my lane. When you go home today, you're trusting the power department. That when you go in and flip on your switch, they haven't decided to ramp up and send 12,000 volts through that switch and kill you. You may eat out today. You're trusting that restaurant that the food is. You trust all kinds of stuff. You trust all day long. It's what is the object of your trust? Jesus said, trust in me, and you can trust in God. and I will show you the way. And Thomas, one of his followers, said, Lord, we don't know the way. Where are you going? How can we know the way? And Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life, and nobody gets to the Father except through that truth. And what God wants to have happen in my life is for his big T truth to crash into the little t truth that I live with. For his truth to be the anchor in my life. For his truth to be the guide in my life. For his truth to be the path in my life. For me to follow his way. And a short time after Jesus made this statement, I am the way and the truth and the life, we watched Jesus go to the cross. And it was there. He provided a way for me to be reconciled, redeemed, and restored to him. What is it you're anchoring your life to? Because so many of us saying, I want to do what I want to do. I'm going to live in the way that I think best is for me. How's that working out for you? Because we're in a mess today. And we're in a mess because we have uncoupled ourselves from the big T truth of God. And the only way that reconciles for me, the only way that my life begins to sort itself is when I connect with the Jesus who died on the cross, reconciled, restored, redeemed, and gave me a way to live. And God's inviting you to that cross. And I don't know where you are. I don't know what you have going on. Our lives are all over the place. We all don't have the same life. I didn't grow up in the church. I was the first Christian in my family. And I remember the time when I heard there was a God who loved me, cared for me, wanted to help me get past my past. And it took me a while to get there, and I dug and pretty skeptical, and in so many ways still am today. But I do know this: grace changed my life. Changed our families' lives. Changed our extended families' lives. How? Because Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And the truth of God will set you free. So I'm going to invite you to stand. And I don't know where you are this morning. I don't know what you have going on. But I want to invite you to come. Just come down here to the front. You know, I'm not asking you to do anything other than saying, God, I need your truth. I want your truth. I don't know how to get there. I don't know what it's about. I don't know exactly how to enter in, but I want to anchor my life to your truth. Lord, I don't like how some of the little t truths have been playing out in my heart and my life. I don't like the circumstance of that. I don't like the guilt I have of that, the shame that's been in some of that. I don't like the messiness. I don't like the wobbliness of this. Lord, I need truth. And no matter where you are this morning, just come down and pray. Come down and ask God. There'll be some folks down here who can chat with you and talk about some next steps, whatever that might be. But mostly, what I want you to know is that God gets you and wants you to get him. So we're going to sing. I'm going to invite you to come. I'm just going to ask God, whatever you have happening, just take a moment and step out toward his truth that we find through this cross. Let's gather down here.
I'm caught up in your presence, and I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy more than anything that you can do. I just want you. You say I'm sorry. And I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you, yeah. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry and I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you, yeah. I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet, and I'm caught up in this holy moment, and I never worry. I'm not here for blessing, 'cause Jesus, you don't owe me anything, and more than anything that you can do, I just want you.
I gotta tell you, our family talks about church a lot. We do. We're all in. I don't know if you know that, but we're all in. I'm not apologizing for that. That's an amazing gift, and I pray that for each and every one of you. But one of the things that Pastor Johnny and I talk about, he's my husband, for those of you that don't know, we talk about this space at the end. And I'm challenging all the time, and he's challenging all the time. Like, we desperately want for this church, for our people, for the ones that we get to be with each week, to have a nudge to step forward into their next, whatever the next step is for you. Some of you, that's the brand new first step. I'm going to step down here and I'm going to pray, and I don't even know what that means. And I'm down here with Dan Chin Fung praying, and I don't even know what I'm doing. But maybe you're feeling like in your heart that you've been building a life, like Rick just taught, on untruths. I spend so much of my week telling myself to unlearn some things so that I can be filled with what Christ wants to tell me. I still have to do that, and I've grown up in the church. If you're new, like, I can't imagine how this might hit you. And I'm praying right now that that God, the Spirit, is just deconstructing some things in your life that you need to unlearn, so that He can come in and teach you some things He needs you to know. We all in our own flesh rely on things that are of our flesh and of our own understanding, and the Spirit comes in and teaches us all we need to know, helps us remember all that Christ has done. And we need that every single day. And Sundays are so important to our family, because you want to know why? We know how hard the week is, and I know you're about to step into a Monday where the enemy's going to come and tell you that everything about truth is untrue. Again, because he tries to do it with me every day. And I pray for this church. If you need an extra moment, we don't ever want to rush, even though we've got another service pending. We provide this space for you to come. We're going to be down here, and we want you to come and to fall on your knees if you need to, and just to give to God whatever it is that He's nudging you to give. And these people down here, they're not leaving. They're going to be here as we leave here today. Stick around. Surrender it. Give it. Fall into His presence. I pray that all you want is to be with Him. Let me pray for us as we send out today. Jesus, I thank you so much for just the truth that comes from your word, and in the Sunday morning get together where we sing praises to you, that it lifts our spirit, as I hope it lifts an aroma to you, God. I pray for the truth that is brought through your word, God, that it will just we'll wrestle with it all week long, Lord. Let us not forget the truths that we learn on a Sunday, that we can use it every day and share it with everyone that we come into contact with. We're caught up in you, Lord, today. It's in your holy name I pray. Amen. You are welcome to step this way. If you've got a nudge, you come on down. If you just want to go home and eat some lunch, I pray he nudges you all the way there. See you guys next week.